Right, okay, hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome back. I'm actually here today with Scoundrel now coming back to the caster's desk as it were. So he's going to start us off a little bit.
Hey guys, Scoundrel here, glad to be back. I had a little break from my first match to let one of our other casters get in and get involved. So, welcome to the second match from our Super 8 tonight. This is between our top seed Manchester and our 5th seed Cardiff. Manchester qualified automatically from their performances over the 3 pre-season friendlies, and Cardiff qualified through our upper bracket of the qualification tournaments. Cardiff, however, have had a roster change. Oatgem having decided to take a break from the game, they are now down a jungler. Will this affect their performance? We can only observe and see. What do you expect to see here, Space? Manchester have always been very strong.
Yeah, right now it's quite interesting to see because Cardiff has came into the NUEL quite strong recently, so we're gonna see something really special here today. I think we're gonna probably see a lot of mid lane plays when Mr. TD is very aggressive and so is Ovidius, and seeing the fact that Ovidius does like to have a lot of jungle pressure, I think there's going to be.
Sorry guys, I'm having a bit of trouble with the TeamSpeak client right now. It might be my microphone deciding to pick up my breathing, which is wonderful. So
yeah,
yes,
you know what? It's that kind of thing I really do like when Scoundrel breathes in my ear. Makes me feel a little bit good.
Well, you know, I try. It's one of my sexy techniques I often try to pull up. Yeah, so we've got some standard bans coming out here, guys. Jinx, one of the most overpowered release AD carries I have ever seen. I actually think she's more potent in the mid lane than as an AD carry. Thresh and Fizz coming out as well. Thresh is one of those supporters that has been banned over and over again, but still so powerful just because of his kit. He has the lantern in and he has the pull towards. He's just like a blitzcrank with a homing missile for your own teammates as well. Is one of these big bruisery assassin type mid laners at the moment. Has the ability to completely destroy mid lane when he gets ahead, and he's probably going to be on the end of Morello's nerf hammer sooner or later, having Ahri being set to nerf, Kassadin being set to nerf, Zed being set to nerf. Fizz, only a matter of time before Fizz comes under that scrutinous eye.
Yeah, and when... Sorry, the Morello did confirm last night that Zed will be getting one heck of a nerf, so it's going to be nice to have Zed completely out of the game, if it were.
Yeah, and we have Vi, Ahri, and Lux. Now, Lux is probably a targeted ban from Mr. TD. We know that he loves to play it, and he plays it to a good standard as well. So, it'll be exciting to see what Mr. TD decides to pick up now, because he's a very, very core component of Manchester's lane. A lot of teams try and camp him because he has the ability to carry, and if you kind of shut him down, he becomes a little bit less useful, as it were. From Cardiff, though, the roster change is probably going to affect them slightly because Oatgem was had a very good synergy with his team, and now that he's gone, will Ovidius receive the same level of camp that he had beforehand? I know they didn't win their first game, so going into this game, they're probably not feeling too up there in terms of morale right now, and I think they just need to pick themselves up. You know, they can win with the class that they have right now, and it's not out of this world to expect them to take down someone like Manchester, who, although they are our first seeds, they have been shown to have a few cracks in their armour.
Disconnected. Connected. Channel switched. Microphone.
Sorry guys, looks like we slightly lost the TeamSpeak.
I'm back, okay, I'm back. I think I'm alive, okay. Can everyone hear me properly? There seems to be a few problems with the microphone right now.
The only thing I'm getting on is picking up my speech, but I think that might be fixed right now.
Yep, that seems to be okay.
Fantastic. Anyway, like I was saying, Cardiff just need to pick themselves up after their first game defeat. I know they've got a new jungler right now, and Ovidius probably isn't feeling as comfortable in the mid lane. I know he kind of relies on having his mid lane camp to get himself ahead, to get himself into that carry position. But he's a very skilled mid laner, and he has the ability to go one-to-one with Mr. TD and win, in my opinion. What do you feel in their space?
When you're looking at a matchup, when it's Syndra versus Malzahar, now both of them have an extreme lane push, both of them do have that 1v1 huge amount of burst. But overall, it's just who's going to be able to do the more influence in the jungle. And looking at the fact that Jarvan's been picked up, there's going to be a lot of pressure in mid lane, and Syndra not having an innate escape won't be able to get away from Malzahar and Jarvan, be able to jump in on her like that.
Yeah, it looks like One in Solidarity opting to pick up that Renekton. We'll talk about the overall team structures and compositions when they go into game, guys, because obviously it's not fair for us to try and predict something that's going to happen when the teams can listen to us talk about it. But overall, I'm liking the matchups that we have here, and there is a good bot lane coming out from Manchester. They're opting maybe to play a bit passive, rely on the fact that Mr. Awesome T has got his Ezreal, which is obviously a good carry for him. And hopefully the Caitlyn and the Sona will be able to exert their pressure over that, because that is a pretty passive bot lane, and when you have a Caitlyn Sona, the amount of poke coming out there should be exploited.
Yeah, definitely. Looking up into the top lane right now, having Jace versus Renekton. Now, Jace has always been known as being a very safe top laner. We do know that he does have his range stance, which does allow him to have the farm and the harass over Renekton. Although Renekton, when he does build, he does usually tend to rush the Sunfire cape, so he will not become problemed by Jace's harass damage, nor Jace's burst. So in the top lane, it's just going to be a matter of just farming, unless Renekton does look to get really aggressive in the early game and possibly have Jarvan coming up for an early gank as well.
And it's interesting because you don't see Jace that much in the top lane anymore. In fact, he made that transition from top to mid lane because his laning phase became a lot weaker. What you find is that Zed started as a top laner because he had such a strong laning phase, and then when he received a few nerfs, he actually got moved down into the mid lane because that shorter lane allows champions with a weaker laning phase to be able to. Mistakes aren't easily as punishable because the lane is shorter, so you can escape jungle ganks more easily. If you get taken low, you can back out pretty easily. There's not that long lane to be chased down in. And Jace had those nerfs to his laning phase, obviously, over a series of nerfs, because when he came out, he was very broken. He does still do really well, though, if you play him like an AD carry in that top lane and don't get too close to that Renekton. You also have his hammer smash to be able to smash anyone who gets in range, but you're going to have to be careful on the timing of it, because if you use it before Renekton has used his second dice from Slice and Dice, then you're wasting a spell.
Yeah, and going back to Jace right now, Jace's biggest nerf was the acceleration gate, which gave him all of his kit really was going around the acceleration gate and putting it on a high cooldown as it was. It was put up to, I think it was 17 seconds. So that really does nerf a lot of his mobility in the top lane, as well as his harass when you do go for the tier Manamune kind of build with like a Bloodthirst Last Whisper. So it's nice to see Jason being picked up, but I don't know how effective he will be in an overall composition that does have Jarvan and Renekton in it and does have the Sona. It's going to be really difficult for Jace to be putting out that poke damage if he does go for a more poke-centered build.
Yeah, and what Cardiff have to be careful of here is that Malzahar is a very all-in champion. Jarvan is a very all-in champion. The only poke that Cardiff are running from with right now is really getting into the teamfight stages. Sorry, I'm not talking about the wrong team here. They have a good poke composition, coming out from Manchester. So you've got Syndra and Jace, very high poke. But they do have to be careful because both of them are very susceptible to hard engages from both Malzahar, Renekton, and Jarvan. With the Ezreal as well, though, if they're running this late game poke competition, they're going to have to try and keep themselves distanced unless they get ahead. And you've got to remember that all of the laners from Manchester are highly skilled. And although I really enjoy Cardiff as a team, I think these roster changes are going to have affected their morale a bit. And I think really they're outclassed in most lanes, bar mid lane, where I think Ovelius has the potential to stand up to Syndra. He's very good on Malzahar. It's very hard to see Malzahar players that really know how to all in properly these days. He's a champion that's kind of been doesn't fit this current meta, but rushing Leandri's Torment on him makes him a very potent champion.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to get into game right now. Just waiting for the client, obviously, to realize that it should be running right now. And there we go. Just to clarify, Oatgerm did actually change his name to Creek OG
Oh, did he? Okay.
So just a little, there's a little bit of confusion there. He did change his name, so
I see. I was informed that he wasn't playing with them and they had a stand-in jungler, but it may look like he has been come back to the team.
I'm very sure that's him.
Are you sure? Because I was told by Avidius that they had a stand-in jungler today.
Maybe it is. Oh, that's odd. Need to go check.
I will check for you on the Null site, guys, just to make sure. We don't want to be feeding you false information about who's playing today, but I was certain that Oatgerm had decided to duck out for this portion of the tournament. But if Oatgerm is back on this Jarvan, this is going to put these teams both in equal steads. But on paper, Manchester have this game, and I just hope that it's not going to be too much of a stomp. But I would like to see Ovidius on his Malzahar. He has promised me that he's going to put in a decent Malzahar performance for me, and I'm really looking forward to it. Level 1 here, though, what are you thinking? Because right now, the more potent level 1 has to go over to Cardiff, because although the Ezreal poke is pretty decent, Caitlyn poke, if she chooses to take Piltover Peacemaker, is better, and Renekton can take his stun level 1, as well as having the Sona Q, which gives everyone bonus stats at level 1, as well as having a quite good power cord damage as well, and Malzahar can stick a dot, which does a pretty good damage at the start as well. So unless he chooses to take a silence, if he hits that across the entire team, I really think you've got to give level 1 over here to Cardiff.
Yeah, definitely, especially with the Renekton with Ruthless Predator. If he actually manages to catch him with Ruthless Predator, if he does take it early game, that's a lot of damage and also a lot of lockups, so they could manage to get an early kill. But going into it now, Cardiff are actually opting to go to the red side of the jungle. They're possibly going either for a very early invade, or they're just going to try and secure a red buff, but it doesn't seem to look like that right now.
No, it looks like everyone is piling in over to that top in Stridebrush. He's going to get caught out by Lee. Lee knows he's there. Has he taken his E? No, he hasn't. He's just going to back out. He's probably starting with his Q. Does look like Caitlyn takes a ton of damage starting on, and they're just going to back out, trying to just respect each other's level 1 potential right here. But if Manchester would chose to go all in like that right now, I think they could have taken the Caitlyn down.
Yeah, definitely. With Caitlyn being in a position where even a flash wouldn't have been able to save her, if the entire Manchester did commit to that kill, that could have been very, very dangerous for Cardiff right there. But looking at it right now, they seem to be looking to try and get a lot of pressure onto the red buff, and it possibly could be a red buff steal, which would be very, very big. But they're just going to back out right now, just leave the ward, and it just means they'll know exactly where Creek is going to be when it comes to a level 3 invade, when it comes to the level 3 red buff and in top lane possibly.
Yeah, I have just confirmed, guys, Creek OG is not Oatgerm, so he hasn't had a name change. It is a new jungler in for Cardiff. So again, this will possibly be affecting the synergy that he had with the team. But one of the Cardiff strengths that they had coming through this entire pre-season and into the qualification tournament is that Cardiff as a team were very solid. They had a good synergy. They knew each other in real life really well. They did a lot of team building exercises, and that really helped their in-game performances and their communication. Having someone new in the team is going to be extremely difficult. It does look like Jarvan is starting that red buff first. He will not be going for that level 3 top. So is this something that Lee Sin is going to try and make take advantage of? So Dross trying to go starting at his red, and he will be heading to that blue buff for level 3 and possibly top. Does look like Avidius is taking a bit of damage early on in that mid lane, and Jarvan is now moving down towards his blue buff. Are we expecting to maybe see a bot gank from Creek OG? But it does look like Lee Sin is going straight for the blue buff of Jarvan. Could he get caught out? If Jarvan does decide to EQ over, is anyone going to come in for him? Yes, Lee Sin does manage to take away the blue buff. Does look like Creek catches Lee Sin out. He's taken pretty low, but Creek is getting taken down pretty hard, but Dross is going to be forced out with the Sona Q. He's got no flash. He's being cornered into the side of Cardiff jungle. But it doesn't look like everyone is collapsing in onto Avidius, and it gets taken down for first blood. Is Dross going to get in onto the Caitlyn? Yes, he is. Caitlyn's level 1. Dross is level 3 right now. The big level difference makes short work of her health. She gets baited onto the turret with Barrier, and he goes in for the kill. He's going to get taken down by the turret for an execute. A 2-3-0 exchange for Manchester right now, and really Cardiff left wanting.
Yeah, right there, that was all on Dross mostly. It was the way that Dross just came straight into the jungle, got onto the blue buff, took it down. When Creek did come over the wall, Lee Sin just turned straight on to Jarvan, knowing that he had the dueling potential and knowing that his team was going to be backing him up. He did manage to insert all that aggression, but we're actually going to have a look at top lane right now, and there's a lot of damage coming out.
Quarren doing a really good job at using his Mercurial Hammer at the right time. One in Solidarity used both Slice and Dice to get onto him, and after he used that Dice, used the Mercury Hammer just to bash him away. But really right now, I think Quarren is having a bit of trouble. He's taken pretty low. Cola Meat comes out, but he does manage to get the acceleration gate into the Mercury Hammer smash, and really well played by One in Solidarity.
Yeah, I think the Ignite came out just a little bit too late. If he did Ignite just that little bit earlier, before he does put out his Ruthless Predator, he would have probably taken down Quarren for the kills. So that could have been arguable, but I do believe that would have been the case.
Yeah, that would have been a kill going over, and probably a little bit of reconciliation for Cardiff right now. But to be honest, Quarren played that really well. He has a really good range champion pool at that top lane. He's very, very known for playing Lysandra in his preseason friendly tournaments. Some of those team fights from Manchester were all centered around Quarren's Lysandra play. Does look like Druss is coming out to try and catch out One in Solidarity. He's only got, he's actually got a ward. He hasn't chosen to place it down. He does use his Slice. Is he going to use his Dice? Jace jumps onto him. They're going to bash him away. He has got Dice up still. Gonna back away, but it doesn't have Flash, and he's going to get taken down by Quarren. Probably a bit poorly played from One in Solidarity right there, and I think this is just the morale that I was talking about. He could have placed that ward a lot earlier, but chose not to, and just paid the price.
Yeah, definitely, and there was actually a very, very good flash knockback by Quarren there, just being able to get Renekton away from Jarvan. Jarvan was not in range to EQ over to him to try and stop any kind of aggression from going onto Renekton. So it was really well played overall in that gank, but as you said, Renekton and the entire team have not really got the morale right now, so they are going to be making all these misplays, and having no ward when you know that there's a Lee Sin going to be around, that's a really big problem.
Yeah, and unfortunately Caitlyn, on that first engage, didn't manage to get an auto attack off onto the Lee Sin, so he managed to get away with that invade scot-free, and actually put Caitlyn behind really far in that bot lane. She's currently sitting at about 15 CS behind the Ezreal, and for an Ezreal, he needs to be dominated early, otherwise he's going to run away from the Caitlyn, and unfortunately, because of the way that first engage played out, Caitlyn is now behind by a big portion, and I think this is going to be problems for Cardiff lane, because once a Caitlyn gets behind, she kind of feels really useless.
Yeah, and when if they were to take down tower very early, the way the Ezreal is with a Triforce, he is going to be much more useful than Caitlyn, especially in the mid game when he does get the Triforce. We're going to actually look at the top lane. Right there in the jungle, Lee Sin just exerting a lot of pressure. We're going back to bot lane right now. There's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of damage coming out onto Caitlyn and to Janna. So
this look like Druss is level 5 and Creek is level 4. He should not be going in to try and duel this Lee Sin right now, and Lee Sin actually takes away that golem, even if there was an auto attack to be had from Jarvan. Jarvan taken really low from a Q combination from Lee Sin. Does look like Quarren is standing there to try and do a bit of damage. Creek getting way too close. He's going to probably get engaged on right here, but does manage to get out with a Demacian Standard into Dragon Strike combo. The amount of pressure being applied by Manchester right now, they're just really turning the screw on Cardiff, and they just need to keep their heads up right now, because the problem for Cardiff is obviously they've had that roster change. They just need to keep their heads up and just let themselves know that they're still in this. You know, it's only 2k gold behind. We've seen worse deficits at this point in time, and they just need to make sure they keep in the game right now, because if they lose their heads, if they get behind too far, just can't start making silly plays, they're going to go even further behind. And now that that red buff is up, it does look like Druss is going to go and take it away from the Jarvan. Is there anyone going to collapse onto him? He does go into that brush. Going to fight it right there. It does look like Greek OG is coming over to try and catch him out. He knows he's probably in there. Is there going to be a smite? He does take it away with a smite. Tries to catch onto Druss. Is Druss going to be able to get away from this? He doesn't have flash. I don't think. Rex tries to slice and dice in. Quarren coming in to try and save the day. Lee Sin managed to safeguard away and just bash the Jarvan out of the picture. Jarvan may have an EQ combo coming up. I don't know if they're going to go back in on this. No, they're not.
And right there, with Lee Sin being around just too long, he's actually losing out now on a lot of CS and EXP, so he is going to be at the same level Jarvan is. Jarvan's away to hit level 5. If you just look now, he's actually quite very close to 5, so even though there was a lot of pressure put into the jungle, Lee Sin has now actually lost quite a bit of an advantage that he did have, because he had so much because he was spending just too much time not doing very much. Pressuring the small golems for EXP doesn't really do a lot, as you've seen him do earlier.
Yeah.
The only things that you should be doing when you're pressuring the jungle is just the buffs, because those are the most important things. And then trying to get global objectives for your team. Once Manchester does get onto the global gold train, then it'll be very, very hard for Cardiff to stop Manchester when that does happen.
Yeah, right now, Grieco G has only just hit level 5, whereas Druss has just managed to clip his level 6. In the jungle, it's going to be very hard for Jarvan to make up that deficit if he doesn't take away this blue buff, and it does look like Lee Sin is going to try and put a bit of pressure onto the blue. He just managed to throw a Q across, doesn't realise that it is getting done right now. I think he's just going to back out and take that away. There are no wards, so he doesn't want to get too cheeky with this. He's going to try and catch on to Ovidius, but I don't think he's going to go in for this. He hasn't picked up... So he has got his wards, but I don't think he's going to go in for a behind the tower insect. I think it's going to be a bit too ballsy, and he's just going to back out. Right now, the gold lead is stretching a little bit. It's now heading up towards the 3k margin. I think that's just the CS difference between the two teams right now. Currently, Ezreal on 72, Caitlyn on 45, Renekton on 50, Jace on 54, and Syndra even managed to beat out that Malzahar in the mid lane. So right now, all the lanes are being beaten in terms of CS and in kills, where the kills are written.
Yeah, and right now looking into the mid lane, with Syndra having that having that advantage, there's going to be a possible point where she will outlevel Malzahar and just go for that 1v1 potential. Although we are having a bit
like they're going to dive
edge.
onto the Jarvan top. Russ managed to picking up with that dragon kick. We will line up the champions for you in a second, guys. I know you guys get really anal about that kind of thing. So we'll do that in a second. Yeah, it does look like a tower dive onto this Jarvan in top lane. And this is not going to help out. But just like Ovidius managed to 1v1 Syndra in the mid lane, is showing why he's so good on that Malzahar, picking up her blue buff for a reset right now. That will be a bit of a morale boost. But that jungler dying again, especially when it's the jungler who's come in for the replacement, probably not going to help the morale either. All the towers looking really low right now. Bot lane tower currently sitting on 266 health. Top lane tower nearly at half health. It's not looking brilliant for Cardiff, but they just need to keep their heads up because this is a winnable game.
Yeah, definitely, and especially with the team comp that they do have, if they were to get a full initiate on in favour of the for Cardiff, then they could snowball right through and just completely ace the team. It's just a matter of trying not to lose too much objectives and not get pressured out of their own jungle so much, and keeping trying to be even right now. But there is almost a 4k difference in goals right now, which is very huge, especially 11 minutes.
Yeah, 11 minutes is such a early time in the game for this kind of gold lead, and it's going to be really hard for Cardiff to regroup, and they do look like they're going to try and catch up this Sona. It does look like Ezreal's coming on the side, and Lee Sin coming in, lands a Q onto the Sona. Is he going to slow down with Tempest? No, he doesn't get the Tempest out before she flashes, and that's a Sona that's getting away right there. Are they going to turn around for Dragon right now? Lee Sin's pinging it. I'm not sure anyone is going to respond. They don't have a pink ward to put down. However, that bot lane is so far pushed up, they could probably get away with it anyway.
Right there, Malzahar was actually around the area, but they didn't have any vision where Lee Sin was recalling, so there is just going to be a lot of safe recalls right here without any pressure being put anywhere.
Yeah, Caitlyn has managed to pick up a VF sword right now. Ezreal, however, sitting on a Sheen and a Phage. It's going to put him in at a slightly stronger camp than the Caitlyn right now. She has made the good decision not to try and delay her late game build, because unfortunately the extra draws probably wouldn't do her much good right now, just because of how far the entire team is behind. She needs to start pumping out that extreme damage. Renekton getting a Ruthless Predator and a Kulvermeek onto the Jace, but he follows up with an accelerated Shock Blast and does a ton of damage to him. So right now, Quarren really showing why Jace is a decent pick still in that top lane, and he's playing him really well. So props to him right now, because Renekton is really quite good at building out these ranged champions with little or no escape, because obviously Jace only has his acceleration gate, but he's using Imperial Hammer to really put the pressure onto that range, and he's hitting every Shock Blast. Right now, Druss can just focus on this mid lane, and this is going to be frustrating for Ovidius, because knowing that he's the only lane that's going to get caught out here is going to be hard for him, because he's now going to have to really keep himself in check with this laning.
Yeah, and Mr. TD actually taking a lot of damage in the mid lane from Ovidius. There's so much that Ovidius can do right now. He does have a blue buff, and Mr. TD doesn't actually have one, so the 1v1 potential there for Ovidius is absolutely huge.
Yeah, and Ovidius can choose to try and all-in, and maybe flash with it to try and get an all-in with this Malzahar. TD, he is, however, moving back. They are going to try and secure the red buff for Cardiff, having it had nearly taken away last time. Lee Sin obviously being really aggressive in invades. Grieco G managing to mess up his EQ combo and getting completely smashed by that Jace. Jace managing to do the damage, but Lee Sin picking up the kill with his Sonic Wave and Resonating Strike. The monster right now, 3-1-2. He's been involved in 90% of the kills, or nearly 90% of the kills. It does look like Mr. TD didn't choose to go back in the end, push the lane. Does look like he's trying to all in him with the ultimate and the E. Gonna take him down. Does look like Druss is gonna go all in onto this Lee Sin as well. He's doing, Ovidius going all in onto Druss. He's doing a lot of damage as well, and he managed to escape with a flash and a Q combo over the wall. Wow, Ovidius just putting in a really great Malzahar performance despite his team being behind.
Definitely, Malzahar is really strong when you can get ahead. It does get to the point where Malzahar can literally just solo anybody he wants, especially when he does get the Leandre as well, and he does seem to be favouring the Haunting guys right now, so he probably will turn that into Leandres at some point in the game. Whether he decides to go for it really early, or he decides to go for it later, he is the scariest person on Cardiff right now, as a player and as the champion right now in this game. He seems to be the one who's going to be the threat.
The only problem for him right now is if his team are relying on Malzahar to carry the entire game, they're going to be really struggling. And the only reason I say that is because Malzahar has a great 1v1 or great lockdown all in. So he can choose one member of the enemy team to all in. But if you were going to choose a member of the enemy team to all in, who would you choose? Because Syndra is still really powerful despite being behind in lane. Ezreal is a monster, and so is Jace right now. You can't choose any of them, and this is where Ovidius is going to face this conundrum. Having his blue buff stolen away, who is he going to choose to go all in? Because even Lee Sin is going to be powerful just because of the levels he has.
Yeah, they just want to try and get a team fight in which they can isolate that one person and take him down, so that they can then focus on the other members of the team.
Yeah, they want to play a Fnatic style game here, which is very much mini skirmishes and avoiding the 5v5. Doesn't like Druss managed to do, Ovidius did a lot of damage to Mr. TD right there, but Mr. TD just forcing it back. Does like Druss gets taken down Ovidius getting taken down pretty high, but just managed to escape with his life. They're literally sitting on 50 HP. I am not sure why I'm calling Ovidius Druss right now. It's getting frustrating for myself to listen to. But yeah, just managed to escape. I don't quite know how he got away with that, because one auto attack would have finished him off right there, and even with the Syndra ultimate, he managed to escape. Like Druss jumps in, tries to get the kick onto Caitlyn to take her out, and they're just going to back out round that second tier turret. Everyone is having to group up so early in the game right now, and this is pretty much what Manchester want, considering they're so far ahead.
Yeah, definitely. It's 6k ahead right now. Manchester are really in the driver's seat, having the 2 towers of the game right now to 0 towers. They're going to try and get down this mid tower, push their advantage into the jungle. As you can see, there's a lot of wards in Cardiff's blue side right now. All they need to do is get the red side of the jungle warded up, and they have complete map control.
Yeah, give me a second, guys. I'm just going to try and sort out my microphone, and I'll ask if it's better in a second. Right now, it's something to do with the voice activation on it. Does look like Druss gets Q onto Sona, but she's not going to go in because they're too close to the turret. Does look like Jarvan is coming around the back. Unfortunately, 0-3-0 hasn't managed to finish any major item, and that Shock Blast managed to take away a giant portion of his HP. I don't know whether Cardiff can fight this, and I think they're going to be forced to go back right now. Right now, what do Manchester need to do to seal this, and what do Cardiff need to do to stand any chance of staying in its place?
Cardiff really have to play a home game right now. They need to sit in their own side, they need to ward up the jungle and just try not to get forced out of their own end. If they get forced out of their own jungle, it's going to be really hard for them to capture any objectives or even pick anybody off. So they want to try and get some vision by getting oracles and get lots of wards around the place, and then hopefully catch someone who gets a little bit too cocky, get them out of position, and then force down one or two turrets or get a Drake just to get that lead and just get the gold back into their favour a little bit more. But looking at the team right now, it's going to be really difficult for them to do that, considering all the vision that they have.
Yeah, guys, just let me know if I sound any better now. Sona uses her ultimate just to survive, and that's when you know you're having a bad day, using those defensive Sona ultimates and not even getting anything out of them in the slightest. Janna has picked up an Oracle's on for the side of Manchester, so he's going to be clearing out the vision, and right now they've got complete map control. Look at the wards that they've placed across the map. They've got one on Dragon, one in the Tribush in bot lane, one right at the back of near the wall for the Nexus area for Cardiff. They've got one in the deep jungle near the red buff, and one in the slight small bush that just goes in towards the red buff area. So right now they know exactly where everyone in Cardiff are, and Manchester really have the upper hand in terms of vision here.
Yeah, and just to point out there that Ovidius did actually go for the Leandres, so there was a lot of damage right there put out, and that was just the basis from the Leandres proc. And go down to bot lane right now. That's the second tier turret pushed down by Janna and Ezreal right now. So as you can see, a lot of pressure down.
And using the extra AD, um, using an extra AD on the Janna shield, they're really doing a good job of using the Ezreal increase in attack speed to just push down those turrets. And unfortunately, even with Jarvan in that lane, I think they could probably 2v3 because the Jarvan is just so weak now. It does look like an all-in onto from Mr. TD onto Ovidius and manages to take him down. So right now they found a chink in his armor because Syndra has rushed that needlessly large rod, whereas Ovidius has obviously gone for that Leandri's Torment and is going to be suffering in terms of burst damage output, and this mid lane turret's going to pay the price for the death.
Whoa, I got right there, a massive lag. I think that was actually the game, and Renekton actually going down to the acceleration gate in that queue from Quarren right there. So another turret going to be taken down. It's going to be tier 2. So
yeah, tier 2 in the top lane, tier 2 in the bot lane, tier 2 in the mid lane. All of the turrets down for Manchester right now. Cardiff are just not in the position to contest it. It's 19 minutes and over a 10k gold advantage, almost at 11k, 12k bordering as well. I'm just not sure there's anything Cardiff can do right now. It's such a giant gold lead, and I hate to say it, but this is one of those games where I feel like they just need to surrender and cut their losses and just pick themselves up for the next game, because right now Manchester are just in the driving seat.
Yeah, definitely. The Cardiff hype train is not really picking up many passengers for this game. So hopefully the train can stop for a bit and recuperate its losses. So Manchester really have just shown as to they are one of the top teams in the Super 8, if not the top team in the Super 8, and Cardiff have probably got a really big wake-up call from that. Even though they do have not the same jungler, it is a big wake-up call to realise there are teams that are going to be very, very strong, and you don't know just how strong they are until you play them.
Yeah, Cardiff and Manchester have met before in our pre-season friendlies, and it was a lot closer. And I just think Cardiff just need to brighten up. You know, I know they've lost the jungler, but it's not the end of the world. And, you know, they can find people to replace him, and they can get their team synergy back. But right now, this is just showing the competitive level of the Super 8. Look at the wards, and look at the sort of skill of play coming out from our top seed right here. And this is the kind of quality you'd be expecting from the Super 8. And for Cardiff, if they had their jungler, I think this would have been a lot closer. I don't want to blame everything on the jungler though, because Manchester have played a brilliant game. Quarren just getting caught out pretty low. He's going to try and go onto the zone and manage to get a good amount of damage. I think Ace and Holt is going to shut him down, and he does take up the shutdown goal right there right now. But it's probably a bit of a consolation prize. Mr. TD again just manages to take out Ovidius with the help of the Ezreal. However, he was taken very low as well, and Caitlin's just trying to defend out this turret. I would love to say that Cardiff have a way back into this. I really would. I love all of those guys. They're really great players. It does look like Jarvan is going pretty hard onto the Syndra. She gets a shield from the Janna. I think they're probably going to be able to kill him. Just Jarvan is so weak at the moment. There's not a lot he can do. I think they're just going to back out.
Yeah, right there. And look at Lee Sin now. He's just going to take that. Well, he's going to try and take the target. But he took it down to half health right there, and he wasn't anywhere near the team fight. He could have actually came in there and made a lot of trouble for the rest of Cardiff.
It does look like Mr. Orson is going to get engaged on by the Renekton, but Renekton just, he's not in a position that he needs to be in right now. He hasn't picked up any tanky items. He's only got that Tiamat, so he's only going to be good at this wave clean. He's playing the direst Renekton build, if anyone hasn't seen it before, where you kind of rush that Ravenous Hydra and then possibly Black Cleaver and go a bit tanky. But right now, it's just Jarvan isn't tanky enough to deal with any of the damage that are being put out from Manchester. And now Rabadon's death cap has been picked up by Mr. TD. Ovidius is going to be behind in that mid lane too, so every lane is just that far behind. If we're looking at individual gold differences, it's 8.3k to Mr. TD and 6k to Ovidius, and every other lane is in a sorry state of affairs as well. And I just don't know how Cardiff can come back from this, but props to them for sticking it out, because that's the kind of spirited sort of longing that we need from each of these teams. That all of them think that they can just get them from the throws. It does look like Quarren is going to engage onto the Renekton. The red buff just ticking away and completely wrecks him. He is taken really, really low and just smashed 1v1 as well, and that's just exactly what Cardiff don't need right now, picking up and giving away silly kills.
Yeah, and another dragon going over to Manchester right now. The global gold is ticking away, and there's now a 13 gold lead. It's that point now where people are going to think, so what now? there's not much Cardiff can do, and honestly, I just feel like maybe they can try to do something about this, but overall, I hardly doubt they're going to be able to do much.
Yeah, and the all-in from Mr. TD right there takes AVDS to a dangerously low portion of health. He couldn't even return an all-in right there and has to back away. Just like Jarvan gets caught out yet again. Lee Sin just managing to get a good amount of damage onto the Caitlyn. She flashes away. Red Buff going to tick and he gets one last auto attack. He does not care about that turret. He is going in on this Sona. Are they going to take her down? The Drusk gets managed to pick up by the one in some solidarity. The Sona ultimate into Ruthless Predator, just setting him up long enough to take the kill. But Ezreal manages to take that bottom turret for their problems. And the all-in from VDS just managing to survive from the Ezreal. He's going to get away. He's actually going to turn around. He really doesn't care right now. VDS doesn't have enough items for Ezreal to be worried that much. And they're going to turn around, take away as many of the jungle camps as they can. Just like Ezreal knows that Avidius is there, he flashes in, tries to get a bit of damage, misses his Q. Ezreal is taken really low. He might go down to the dot from Avidius, but he gave away his life for a flash. I'm not sure that was worth it. I don't know if Cardiff are playing this to the sort of level that they want to be playing right now. I think they're just kind of just going for the kills.
Yeah, and really, there's another kill by Sona. It's going to get popped drastically by Mr. TD. Popping out the ultimate really didn't need to, but right now Sona is trying to get those wards into the jungle and just is getting completely denied.
It's only a 60-second cooldown for Mr. TD's ultimate, so Syndra's ultimate is one of those that you can kind of spam on their Lux ultimate just because it's so short cooldown, so he can come back into the next fight and it'll be up, whereas Sona didn't have her ultimate available because she used it to try and survive from that Renekton earlier on and actually ended up getting away with it, but again, it could have been useful there, but still, Syndra is so powerful right now. Jace is so powerful right now. 6-1-3. Ezreal is powerful despite having low amount of kills. It's just this global gold snowballing that we've talked about many times. As well as on our talk show, The Assessment, which you guys can go watch on YouTube on the Null channel. We talk about the snowball meta and how it's just crazy to come back from right now. And Cardiff are on the receiving end of that right now. All the towers from the outer lanes going down, and one inhibitor tower in the bot lane going down. That's a whole chunk of gold that Cardiff just haven't got the items to respond to, because if they try and force down one of these outer turrets, they're just going to get engaged on 5v5 and probably lose the game.
Yeah, it's just that kind of thing where tower diving right now is really, do you think that you can take down the key members of their team before the tower really takes its toll? Looking at Syndra, she does have a death cap. I personally would have went DFG because I'm a massive fanboy of DFG, but also because it does the amount of burst damage. It helps you get all that damage off in one person. It completely deletes them from the game. But if they get that key person dead, like they are going to try and do, like,
does it like Quarren is going really hard. He's going to get taken down for his stockiness, but Ezreal is coming in, gets caught out by the Solar Ultimate. He's probably going to go down, but takes down one in solidarity for his troubles. Looks like a good stun comes over from the Syndra. Lee Sin lands a Q. I don't know if they're going to go in on this right now. Again, they're just sort of playing with them right now. Just like a big ultimate comes out from Mr. TD onto the Caitlyn. She gets taken down, completely wrecked, and it just looks like Avidius is just left gawping in the mid lane because he doesn't know how to come back from this. He hasn't got the items to deal with any of the team members. It does look like a massive amount of damage comes onto Avidius from Mr. TD, and he is taken down as well without the use of her ultimate. That's just how far ahead she is. And despite Avidius doing well in lane versus Mr. TD, there's nothing he can do. He throws a minion onto Sona. She is taken pretty low from that. Stun comes out and hits both Jarvan and the Sona. Jarvan not having a good time right now. He isn't tanky enough to deal with the damage that's coming out from Mr. TD. And right now, what can they do to defend against this Syndra who's just wrecking them from afar?
There just isn't really anything you can do right now. It has got to that point where Cardiff don't have any answers right now, and there would need to be some kind of serious misplay for Manchester to even have any type of... Oh, well, there we go. There's a Renekton.
Exactly. Like I was talking about with the ultimate from Syndra, it came down very quickly again. He manages to burst it onto the Renekton, and a surrender vote comes out from Cardiff. Really, I think that was the only way that this game was going to end in the next few minutes, unless there was a push from Manchester, because that was probably the sensible option from Cardiff. They need to cut their losses, keep their heads up and say, look, we played the first seed without our main jungler. We need to just turn our heads up and go into the next game and think we can take it. Because they can. They played really well. And although Manchester exerted their early dominance and really put pressure on the jungle, which they knew was probably going to be weak from Cardiff because they did have a new jungler. I think that Cardiff just need to turn their heads and just look up and say, look, okay, we played badly for the first 2 games, we've got a new team. Let's go into this third game smiling and not try to worry too much and give all the champions that we know we can play really well on and just go in and try and take it. But to be honest, Manchester showed exactly why they were our first seed. And they are looking scary. They're going to be a really big team in this Super 8 right now. And I'm really looking forward to looking at some of their next matches too.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at the caliber, the amount of players who are at the level of they can be in the Super 8, there is actually, 3 teams from Manchester in the Super 8 right now. And
yeah, Manchester is just a big university for League of Legends. Obviously, they've got the Manchester Net team as well as the 2 teams from the actual Manchester Uni. And both of those Manchester Uni teams look really strong right now. I'll look into getting an interview with one of the members from Manchester for you guys, get him on TeamSpeak and probably have a little conversation with him about how they've been performing this Super 8 so far and if they're actually looking to have a rivalry with anyone, because obviously they had the rivalry with Aberystwyth earlier on this season, but if they're looking, we're going to look into sort of if they fear anyone else, because the way they played against Cardiff, it looked like they were playing with no fear.
There we go, we're just going to wait and see if we can get some kind of interview on. Most likely will be from one of the Manchester guys, so if you just hold on a second and we'll try and get somebody in for you.
In the meantime, guys, we'll play a bit of music. Just enjoy it for a couple of minutes and we'll be back very soon.